I'm now excited to introduce our next panel, From Like to Love, Creating a Deeper Connection with Customers. Joining us on stage are four execs that are obsessed with customer experience. Julie Bornstein, CEO at The Yes, Claire Chambers, Chief Commercial Officer at Food52, Joon Silverstein, SVP of Global Digital Customer Experience and North American Marketing at Coach, and Dion Picco, Vice President of Products at Acquia. This session is moderated by Commerce Next advisor Scott Ableman. Scott, I'll hand it over to you.
Thank you, Veronica. I am incredibly excited to be able to kick off the afternoon with this powerhouse panel. All of our panelists have experience running major brands, but they also represent some truly innovative thinkings in retail, some startups, some established brands, but all innovative thinkers. And if you aren't familiar with all of them, you're going to enjoy learning more. So our topic, as Veronica said, is creating deeper connections with customers. Let's jump right in with a topic that I know is relevant to everybody this year. Physical stores have traditionally been where we build relationships between our associates and their customers, but COVID has forced us all to try to figure out how to do that virtually. So how do you approach building virtual experiences that are just as sticky as the in-person experience? Start with Joon. You've done that in the last year with your Coach associates, right?
Yeah, thanks, Scott. We've actually been on this journey for a while, and as we've been focusing on driving omni customer centricity, but of course amplified by the impact of COVID-19, we've really been rethinking the role of stores and associates in an increasingly digital world, and in particular thinking of our store teams not just as sales associates driving our four-wall sales, but really as brand advocates across the digital and omni shopping journey, and how we leverage our global store teams as really a competitive advantage in this increasingly digital world. And we know our customers today move fluidly between digital, social, and physical worlds, and that to build deeper, more relevant customer relationships, we need to engage our customers where and how they want to engage. And so we're in some ways disaggregating the store associates' role from their physical environments and amplifying their role as relationship and community builders across our digital ecosystem. So some of the ways we're doing this include, we're activating our sales associates as micro-influencers on our social platforms in every market to build our Coach community. We're leveraging them as customer stylists on our digital platforms, for example, live streaming on Tmall in China, or texting and video chatting on our North America e-com sites, developing social clienteling platforms where our associates can connect directly into the social platforms where our customers most engage, and highlighting our associates in our digital site and marketing content. And all of this is really with the goal of infusing our digital experiences with a sense of personal and authentic connection, and harnessing the power of the human connections we create in our store environments to amplify the brand's digital community.
And how's it working?
It's working great. Of course, the need is never more amplified when our stores are actually closed, even though we know the way our customers engage across channels is changing so rapidly. But I think this has been a fundamental part of how we have continued to drive sales and continue to actually to increase and accelerate our engagement of customers, even during the pandemic.
Now, Julie, the Yes is new. It doesn't have stores, and doesn't have associates that are interacting with customers. Your thesis is that that's an advantage, right?
Yes, we are definitely. Our whole business is built around the idea of how do we continue to improve shopping online. It's something I've worked on my whole career, starting at Nordstrom.com in the early e-commerce days, and then going to Sephora, and then at Stitch Fix. And we started the Yes primarily because we felt like technology had finally caught up to the potential of what you could do to make shopping online better. And the whole concept is, as a consumer, it's women's fashion, and you come onto the platform and you answer questions that are very important around understanding style, budget, brand preferences, and size. It's a fun, interactive onboarding. And then basically what we've done is we've built a store around each user. So we work with a very broad set of brands, almost like if you were going to the mall. We have Zara, we have Balenciaga, we have Frame, we have Everlane, we have some DTC only brands. Everlane being one of them. And so the idea is for anything you need, high to low, we have that assortment, and based on your own preferences overall and in the moment, your shopping experience is adaptive. And so you come on, you have a feed that's based on the things you've told us in your onboarding. And then as you're shopping, you can say yes or no to things as if you were in some ways talking to an associate who's bringing things to you and showing you product. And our algorithm is really built on a one-to-one basis. So each user has sort of their own personal algorithm that adapts to them as they go. So as you yes and no product, we learn your style and taste preferences over time even more. And it makes for a very sort of fun, interactive, and engaging shopping experience, and also much more efficient because the stuff that you don't like is kind of moved out of the way. And it's really using a combination of AI and software that allows us to integrate directly with brands, and then sort of a number of other technologies that we've built to allow us to create this experience that in many ways does a great job of, I would say, creating what you might get from going into a store or a boutique and having someone who's helping you navigate that store for you.
And is there like a moment of stickiness with all those interactions you're trying to generate? You're asking a lot, right, of the user. Is there some moment where you've got them where they've invested?
Well, it's interesting. I think while we're asking a lot up front, I think people are really willing to give you information if it's going to pay out and improve the experience. And it's kind of fun to fill out the Q&A. And then what happens is, as you're yesing and knowing, you actually have this sense of time well spent. So as opposed to looking at a lot of things on a traditional website and then coming back and only the things that maybe you've added to your cart have any different sort of meaning, the idea of spending time browsing and shopping, but being able to create sort of this constant feedback loop actually feels like a good investment. So much so that we hear from our customers that it's weird when they then go shopping elsewhere and they can't give that kind of constant feedback. So there's something about it that has become very sticky. I would say, to answer your specific question, we see that after about 10 yeses and nos, people start to get the feel of it and they understand the feedback piece. And you don't need to do it. Like if you're seeing things that you sort of like, but it's not something special, you skip it, but you can yes and no. So it's sort of this, the amount of work is sort of whatever you want to put into it. But once people start to get that feedback, we see people coming back and really engaged with the experience.
And not to leave Claire behind here or Dion, but you've all got slightly different approaches to this. Claire, you do it with content, right?
Yeah, that's right. And I agree with what Julie said about technology coming along, because I feel like I've spent a lot of my professional career trying to recreate the magic of a store in the digital world. And one of the ways I think that we're able to do that at Food52 really is through content, because we are a content business and we over-index when it comes to really meaningful, relevant content, right? And so when you come to our site and you're going through the shopping process, you might see a GIF that's showing off the really useful feature of an item, or you might see a video that's talking from the merchant team telling you how to care for an item, or you might see an influencer using it in real time on a video. And all of those things I think come together to recreate this kind of magical moment of serendipity where you discover that you need this item, you want this item that you didn't know you needed before. And that's one of those things that happens a lot in stores, but until recently, I don't think it's happened a lot online.
It happened to me on your site recently. Tell me about it.
Yeah, I was going to say, Scott, I love the fact that my fellow panelists here are talking about how technology has come, to a point of being able to deliver that value, because Acquia is a little bit different in that regard, in that we are a technology provider to a lot of these large brands. And so, we have very much the same view, right? It's delivering and managing hyper personalized content, and then really having an understanding of your customer enriched and delivered through data that allows you to have sort of that that authentic, meaningful engagement. And so for us, we see a lot of our brands trying to reconcile online versus offline shopping, understanding what that switch to digital really looks like. And is it driving new customers? Is it, really, loyal customers coming back and moving towards a digital channel? But it also is tying all that into even, the post-sales customer support view. So having that 360 degree of customer matched with identity resolution, for example, becomes sort of baseline. But then, delivering, and we use, we're delivering a lot of machine learning models to do things like, what's my customer's propensity to buy with a 5% discount or a 10% discount, so that marketers can really, deliver value to the customer, but still manage that discount budget, for example, or do things like predict lifetime value. So I can really offer, a loss leader type of campaign, because, competition is so fierce in a digital environment, and, you can lose a customer in seconds if you've not really differentiated yourself or have introduced too much friction. So I love what I'm hearing here, and we very much share that same vision of, how can I leverage technology through content and data to really deliver that authentic experience that feels very humanized, as opposed to, I think last generation systems that were much more rigid and fixed on a per customer, not the per customer personalized version we have today.
So you're talking about personalization. Julie, you've described the Yes as a store for each user. Is that why they return?
Definitely. I think the more you sort of feel like you can have your needs met efficiently and you feel heard and understood, the more, I think it's probably the strongest attribute behind loyalty is really you understand me as a customer and you are working to serve me.
I wanted to talk about community as well. It's certainly sticky if you can pull it off, and each of you have that as part of your strategy. Claire, it's a critical component for Food52.
Yeah, it is. And the way that we think about community is that it is about meeting user needs. And so one of, I think one of the richest examples of this for us is our 5.2 line. So our 5.2 line is one of our owned brands, a proprietary product line that we developed starting in 2018 with the help of community. And of course, this was before my time at the company. But what I love about our approach was that it was instead of saying, okay, well, we have a decade of experience figuring out, knowing what people buy in the home space and what they want, we actually turned it backwards to our community of 24 million people, 3 million Instagram followers, 30,000 members that had actually signed up and said, hey, yes, I want to help you design the cutting board of my dreams. And so we survey this group of people and really all of our audience in all sorts of ways. There's no single formula. It might be about a long form survey or a short poll on Instagram or a focus group or sending people product to test anywhere in the product development cycle. But the best part about this is that this involvement makes them so much more likely to be engaged in the products once we bring them to market. So not only are they hopefully amazing products, which I can say confidently they are because there's so much great input, but also, when people are involved in something, they want to tell other people, they want to buy it for their mom, and so there's this really great virtual viral loop that creates purchases, but it also creates a brand affinity that is really, I think, hard to manufacture otherwise.
That co-creation concept, you're doing something like that as well, Joon, right? Even with the traditional brand?
Yeah, I think Claire made all the right points. And I think even for a brand like Coach, where we started in bricks and mortar, are now really becoming omnichannel. We see a couple of things. One, especially for our younger customers, purchasing decisions are increasingly social experiences. And more than ever, they value experience and connection over purchase and ownership. And so, as we think, of course, customers are still buying products, thank goodness for us, but it's really about the stories that they can tell behind the product, how it connects them to others. And so I think personalization, community also go hand in hand as we think about how we truly get to know our customers on an individualized basis, but also think about how we leverage the power of social networks to build our community. So at Coach, we're doing, and I would say the other trend we're seeing is really that It's, again, especially for younger customers, the boundary between brand defined and customer created is blurring, and customers expect to engage with brands in really meaningfully different ways. And so at Coach, we're doing a number of things. We have recently launched our Coach Insider membership program, which is rolling out across all channels, stores, online, outlet, retail, and is really about how we think about leveraging our multi-channel footprint and really building that community and deeper emotional connections from pre-purchase through post-purchase across our channels, and also amplifying our co-creation initiatives. So how do we think more meaningfully about thinking differently about the definition of brand, involving customers more meaningfully in user-generated and co-created content, product experiences, and leveraging and harnessing that across our digital ecosystem to then activate and engage a broader community. So I think those are all really important things. And we know community will only become more and more important in how brands engage and build loyalty.
So how do we build that? We've got people in our audience that are pure plays, that are mobile plays, that are bricks and mortar. But everyone seems to agree in talking to all of you that mobile first is the way we have to think in 2021. How do you view the role of mobile in the customer experience? And did COVID change that? Joon,
I just say sure.
I can start, or I'm sorry, Dion, did you want to jump in?
No, by all means, Joon, please.
Well, we really see mobile at the center of two, I would say perhaps opposing trends, which have been amplified by the impacts of COVID-19. The first is the dramatic acceleration of the shift to digital behaviors. And the second is the simultaneous amplification of the need and desire for in real life physical experiences and human connection, something I know we all miss a little bit right now. And we see the impacts of these two trends. So the dramatic acceleration of digital behaviors on the one hand, and the growing desire for human connection on the other, driving the increasing blurring of channel boundaries. So rather than seeing customers simply interacting across channels, for example, browsing in one channel and then purchasing in another, we're seeing the increasing convergence of digital, social, and physical channels. And that is all enabled by mobile, which has really spiked in penetration over the past year. So at Coach, we're really leaning into these evolving customer needs by creating converged physical and digital experiences. So for example, an app that enables customers to navigate our store environments on their own mobile devices, moving seamlessly between self-directed discovery and associated assistance. And on the other hand, the integration of in real life experiences when customers are engaging with us online, for example, 3D, augmented reality, virtual pop-up stores, chat, video chat, live streaming with our in-store stylists online. And so we really see the significant growth and impact of mobile as a really important opportunity for Coach and for all brands to really rethink the customer experience and how we are engaging our customers.
And Julie, the Yes started as an app-only experience, right?
Yeah, it's so interesting. We built, mobile obviously is the fastest growing channel if you look at sort of online sales. And so we thought about, first of all, we started pre-COVID. So definitely I would say there's been a little bit of a softening with mobile relative to its sort of trajectory because we're all at home. But the truth is that it continues to outpace in terms of use and growth sort of overall. And as soon as we get back out in the real world, that'll continue. When we were deciding where to start in building our platform, we really felt like we want to make this feel like an app that is native and not a website that is translated to a phone, which is what a lot of commerce feels like, because that's how the sort of sequence really happened. And so we also felt like we would be more limited in what we could do. So it would force us to make trade-offs and hard choices from a usability standpoint. So we started on mobile. We're actually working on building out web now because it's pretty important from a link building and a growth standpoint to have web. It has some different characteristics for growth that are pretty critical. But I would say that the ongoing importance of both channels is a reality that creates more work to manage, but is kind of essential for today because people are doing things in very fluid ways across, devices and in person when they can. And so, it's a really critical channel. And I think thinking about the ways in which your brand leverages sort of each of these channels is really important. And I think what Joon said about what Coach is doing makes a lot of sense for a brand like that. And, it's a little bit different depending on the nature of your business, but an absolutely critical channel, and it will continue to grow and flourish as technology continues to make these devices even more powerful.
And you launched right in the middle of COVID.
We did. Had a great time. I wouldn't recommend it.
That's bold. That's bold.
Bravo to you and your team.
We were 2 years in the making,
Scott,
so we didn't have much of a choice. But
that's awesome. Scott, I was just going to add, I mean, traditionally what we've seen is, there's, I guess, historically been two groups when you think about mobile, right? So there's the group that views mobile as another device or another screen. It's convenient that it just so happens to be on the user at any given moment, so you can have 24/7 engagement on some level. But it really essentially boils down to almost another content or information delivery model. But then there are certain brands and certain types of vendors, and I think, I always use the fast food example. I'm never going to order a burger on my laptop. But I will order a burger or order fast food, for example, on a mobile device anytime. So that's a clear example where mobile first, it's almost a mobile only situation. But I think much like, my fellow panelists have said, the richness of the sensors, the capabilities of a mobile device, whether it's take a quick picture, post it to Instagram, support the community kind of concepts that you just introduced, for example, or heading very much into a sensor facing future where things become much more automated and your mobile device is essentially a proxy for you as an identity. Given how much of the web is very much anonymous users, mobile has a real chance of fostering community, fostering automation, and fostering identification. I think we're still in just the real early days of most brands getting their head wrapped around a differentiated mobile strategy, but so much opportunity out there.
I would agree. And you may or may not be speaking to somebody who has ordered a burger from a laptop, which just speaks to the point that you have to meet everybody where they are, right?
Yeah.
And Claire, Food52 is not only on mobile, but you're on OTT platforms like Roku, right?
Yeah, that's right. We're on Zumo, and we have an OTT app. And I think, I agree with what everybody has said about meeting people where they are. This is a time to be really fluid and focus on creating a seamless cross-platform experience. We see mobile, there's two kind of magical moments for us with mobile. One is around entertainment and, these kind of in the margin moments for our customer where, she has a moment to read an article or watch a video. And that is also a moment where connected TV comes into play, right? And it could be watching a video on your mobile device, but it could also be watching it on your TV. And then the second thing is around utility, because, gone are the days of cookbooks, right? Where you had a cookbook in your kitchen, and today you have your mobile device right by you. And so, you're cooking alongside your phone. And so finding ways to kind of get the right information step by step in front of somebody while they're cooking is, a particular passion of ours.
I guess we buy cookbooks to put on the coffee table now, but when we want a recipe, we look at our phones.
That's right.
I am a cookbook junkie, but I still end up going to my phone when I'm making something.
But inspiration, right, Joon? The cookbook becomes inspiration.
Yeah,
Right.
I think one of the things that we've seen with mobile is the sort of there's more time in people's days to fill and a little bit more boredom than there used to be. The idea of your phone being a source of entertainment as well as transaction is definitely growing. And so one of the things that we've seen is we have a home feed that is sort of dedicated to each user and changes daily. And we hear a lot of people say, I come just to look and to sort of yes and no product. And I sort of check it out every day, even though I'm not necessarily buying each day. And, I think especially during these times when there aren't as many occasions to buy for and fashion purchases are down overall, the idea of being able to think of other ways to engage users on their phone is a really sort of powerful opportunity.
Yeah. Joon,
it's almost like the Michelin example, right? Where you have the Michelin guide to drive sales of tires in a way. It's almost like an adjacency strategy. I love it, Julie.
great analogy. Now, Coach has stores all over the world, and you've learned from that, right, Joon? You saw some things happening in the China market that have influenced what Coach is doing, right?
Yeah, I mean, China was our first market to be significantly impacted by COVID-19. So we really learned a lot from this early experience, and not only in how to best manage it, but also some confidence that we could get through it. And, I think in particular, this goes back to some of what I was saying with that first question, that we learned just how critical it was to really rethink the role of our store associates and the role of our stores, and to think much more dynamically beyond sort of like physical four walls, and how we amplify our associates to build and engage relationships with our customers in a virtual way on social platforms and digital platforms. And, how much more critical is that when our stores are actually closed? And so, fortunately in China, I think this is the place where we've been innovating the furthest around how to do this. For example, we've taken digital clienteling to the next level, where we have evolved it into a social clienteling platform that's really plugging our associates directly into the social platform, namely WeChat, where our customers most engage in their daily lives. And so, we've leaned in really early here, more meaningfully around leveraging our teams through virtual appointments, Zoom parties, live streaming, and just that continual daily connection sort of integrated into the fabric of our customers' daily lives. And I think Julie makes a really great point that our customers are just always on mobile now. And there's so much time where we're waiting, there's dead space, it's funny, we actually see our customer behavior impacted and tied so much more now to sort of macro environment, emotional sentiment. We actually saw traffic and sales spike immediately following the inauguration. So there's this sort of sense of being in the pulse of life, and, how do we make our brands relevant in it? And I think in China, the digital ecosystem and customer behaviors are just so much farther ahead, that not just related to COVID, but just overall, we're really looking at, we're driving so much innovation there, and then really thinking about how do we take this learning and how do we scale it in locally meaningful ways in other markets.
Seems fair to say that for all of the horrors, this has pushed some people to make some changes and we're not going back. That it's pushed some innovation. Is that what you're seeing with the companies you're working with, Dion?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if there's ever any going back. I think once you've taken a technology adoption, I don't know if there's ever been a case in history where we've taken a step back. And so we see customers starting with some technology adoption, like I said, maybe to do identity resolution. But by the time they start getting into machine learning and some of those advanced capabilities, and they start to see how it's really staff augmenting their overall marketing efforts, and how it's not just maths and models and kind of something that's a little bit more esoteric on the edges, but really something that's delivering value and allowing marketers to get back to focusing on creativity, focusing on strategy, focusing on as Joon said, what's the trends that are out there that we can actually make a meaningful impact around. We don't have technologies that's doing those things. And so we see that, once you get adjusted to that new normal and you see the horsepower that your team really have, you're on to new things, and that becomes your new normal. There's no going back, certainly.
Well, I know that we could go on for easily another half hour here, but we're actually, believe it or not, running out of time. I'd love to hear just a few stories from you on, with everybody focused on user engagement, what are some of the interesting things that you've learned about your users through all this? Let's start with Claire.
So many things we've learned this year. I think the thing that stood out to me most is kind of this moment when we realized everybody wanted sushi. And what I mean by that is, we started almost a full year ago, everyone embarked on quarantine and they were feeling inspired. They were making sourdough. They were embarking on these ambitious cooking projects. And then, fast forward a few months, and as we kept pulse on people through, user behavior and surveys and other things, we realized that, in the June, kind of July timeframe, there was kind of this certain nostalgia creeping in. People wanted to be able to go to their corner sushi restaurant. They missed going to the taco truck. They they were craving that, these old normal parts of life via taste. And so anyway, it was a moment that we chose to really embrace some change in our content strategy and bring new contributors on board and make sure that we're really fueling kind of these new flavors and cultures in giving people recipes that they could cook and content to read about, just at a moment that people kind of needed a little injection of something like that. So,
Julie, it's still early for the yes, but what has surprised you most?
I don't know. I think one of the things that's really stood out is how much women enjoy getting dressed as part of the going out in the world, part of our life. So whether it's going to work, going to events, going to see friends, there's all these occasions for which we can buy cool clothes and dress a certain way. And a lot of that obviously isn't happening. And so what we're seeing is people are buying lots of comfortable clothing and some Zoom tops and those kinds of things, but that they're sort of creating it. Part of our app allows you to sort of create lists. And, there's a lot of dreaming for once these days are over and we can go back out and we can get dressed up again. And, I think there's a debate around whether, sort of casual clothing is sort of become a permanent trend or people are going to get dressed again. I'm definitely in the camp of kind of burn our sweats and get dressed up. But, I think that the sort of idea of still thinking about it and wanting to think about it and planning for it is something that we're seeing in the behavior in our app. It's kind of fun.
We're just down to our last minute here, so I'll just do a real quick lightning round. I'd love for you to leave our audience with some tidbits of wisdom from your experience. What we've all learned from our mistakes. What's one mistake that our audience should avoid when thinking about customer engagement? Let's start with Dion.
I would say don't underestimate the digital maturity of your users. I think if you're just servicing the web, if you don't have an omni-channel strategy, if you don't have a data-centric strategy, and you don't have a creative content strategy that all really amplifies based on the expectations of your users, you're in trouble. So don't underestimate the digital maturity and think holistically about your omni-channel strategy. Absolutely.
Joon?
I would say being vigilant not to fall into false narratives about the brand you want to be or the customer you think you have. Sometimes narratives can be really alluring about the future, or they could be really sticky from the past. And so, of course, bold vision and strategic direction are absolutely vital, but it's also critical that these are grounded in really a real understanding and real clarity on who your customers are today, where they are going, who are the new customers you want to acquire.
Claire?
Yeah, I'd say don't assume the ultimate goal of engagement is actually conversion and revenue, a transaction, and think more broadly. So invest in the elements of the journey that create true magic, because that's where the stickiness comes from.
And we'll finish with Julie.
I would say don't treat new customers better than repeat customers. It's a tendency to use big discounts to bring new customers in, but your real customers and the one you want to treat the best are your active customers.
Lots of head nods there. Well, thank you. We're out of time. These guys will all be in the Q&A. Fantastic session. Thank you for your time. Thank you for joining us today.